the lights dimmed, and the audience held its breath. A hush fell over the theater as the next contestant walked onto the stage. Simon Cowell, known for his sharp tongue and instant judgments, barely waited before leaning forward, his hand raised. 10 seconds in, he said what everyone feared: next. The room tensed. But then, something unimaginable happened. The young Filipino boy, no older than 12, took a deep breath, closed his eyes, and with a voice so pure and powerful, he turned every doubt into awe. From the very first note, the judges froze. His voice carried the raw emotion of someone who had seen hardship, someone who had lived through struggles that most could only imagine. He wasn't just singing, he was telling a story of perseverance, of dreams that refused to die even when the world seems ready to shut them down. The audience, initially skeptical, began to lean forward, hanging on to every note that came from this small, unassuming boy. Backstage, his family held each other tight, tears streaming down their faces. They had moved from a small village in the Philippines, chasing a dream that many said was impossible. Every day had been a battle, waking up before sunrise, working odd jobs, practicing for hours with barely enough to eat. But the boy's determination never wavered. Singing wasn't just a hobby for him, it was a lifeline, a promise to himself and his family that one day, the world would hear him. Simon's initial hesitation seemed almost cruel at first, but as the boy's voice soared through the theater, even Simon couldn't hide his astonishment. Each note was clear, controlled, yet filled with emotion that made you feel every struggle, every tear, every sleepless night. The judges looked at each other, then back at the boy, realizing that this was not just talent, it was magic. And in that moment, the audience erupted in applause that shook the walls. The Filipino Elvis, as he would soon be called, didn't just perform a song, he created a connection. He sang of hope, of dreams against all odds, of believing in yourself when no one else does. And as he finished, the silence that followed was heavier than any cheer, a moment of pure reverence, a collective acknowledgement of something extraordinary. Even Simon, the toughest critic on the planet, was on his feet, clapping, smiling, visibly moved. But the story didn't end on that stage. After the show, the boy spoke quietly to his family, his voice trembling with emotion. "This is just the beginning," he said. He knew the journey ahead would be even harder, the competitions, the rejections, the doubts, but now, he had proof that dreams were worth fighting for, no matter where you start. His story became an inspiration, a reminder that courage and perseverance could turn the harshest no into a life-changing yes. By the end of the video, viewers feel the weight of his journey, the early mornings, the sacrifices, the moments of fear, and the triumph of a dream realized. His story isn't just about singing, it's about resilience, about believing in yourself when the world seems ready to give up on you. And as you watch him leave the stage, victorious, smiling, tears in his eyes, you can't help but feel a surge of hope for your own dreams. If you felt inspired watching him, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who needs a reminder that no dream is too big, no voice too small. Because if one young boy from the Philippines can stop Simon Cowell in his tracks and captivate the world, imagine what you could do when you refuse to give up. The lights dimmed. The audience held its breath. Simon Cowell, with his usual stern expression, leaned forward and raised his hand. 10 seconds had barely passed, and he said what everyone feared: next. The room tensed, a mix of shock and disbelief rippling through the audience. But then, a small figure in the spotlight, a young Filipino boy no older than 12, closed his eyes, took a deep breath, and began to sing. From the very first note, the theater changed. It wasn't just a song, it was a story. A story of sacrifice, struggle, and dreams that refused to die even when the world seemed to say no. The boy's voice was pure, powerful, and full of emotion that immediately gripped every heart in the room. The audience leaned in, holding their breath, unable to tear their eyes away. Even Simon, the man known for ending acts in seconds, froze. His hand hovered mid-air, as if time itself had paused to listen. Back home, this boy's journey had been far from easy. Every morning before the sun rose, he woke to practice, his small voice echoing through their humble home. Nights were long and sleepless, filled with hunger and worry, but his spirit never wavered. His family had made countless sacrifices, walking long distances, taking odd jobs, scraping by just to support his dream. Singing wasn't just a hobby, it was a lifeline, a promise to himself and his family that one day, the world would hear him. As he stepped onto the AGT stage, the tension was unbearable. The bright spotlight hit him, and for a moment, it seemed as if everything would crumble under the pressure. Simon's infamous 10-second warning lingered in the air, sharp and unforgiving. But the boy's eyes closed, and he let his heart lead the way. The first note rang out like lightning, clear and full of life, and the entire theater went silent, completely captivated. It wasn't just his technical skill that amazed, it was the raw emotion, the story woven into each note. Each word, each melody carried a weight beyond his years. The audience could feel his struggles, his dreams, and his relentless hope. The boy wasn't just singing a song, he was speaking a language everyone understood, the language of perseverance. Simon's face softened, the initial judgment replaced with astonishment. The audience's skepticism vanished, replaced with awe and admiration. Some wiped tears from their eyes, others simply sat frozen, lost in the magic of the moment. This boy's journey wasn't just about talent, it was about courage. Growing up in a small village in the Philippines, he had faced endless obstacles. Life had tested him in ways most could never imagine, yet he had never given up. Every sacrifice, every struggle, every sleepless night was poured into this moment on stage. And the world could feel it. Every note was a testament to his resilience, a declaration that no dream is too big, no voice too small. As he reached the crescendo of the song, the theater erupted. Simon, the man who had stopped him after 10 seconds, was now on his feet, clapping slowly, visibly moved. The audience followed, their applause and cheers shaking the room. But it wasn't just excitement, it was respect, reverence, and a deep emotional connection that few performances ever achieve. He had done more than sing, he had touched hearts and inspired hope. When the final note faded, silence fell for a brief, breathless moment. Then the cheers returned, louder than before. The boy looked toward his family backstage, tears in his eyes, and whispered, "This is just the beginning." He knew the journey ahead would be even harder, the competitions, the rejections, the doubts, but now he had proof that dreams are worth fighting for. His story became a beacon of hope, a reminder to everyone watching that courage and perseverance can transform any no into a life-changing yes. The Filipino Elvis had done more than win applause, he had won hearts. From a small village to the world stage, he had proven that talent is powerful, but determination is unstoppable. He showed the audience, the judges, and the millions who would watch this story online that success isn't just about talent, it's about believing in yourself when the world seems ready to give up on you. And as he walked off the stage, triumphant and humble, the lesson remained clear: no matter where you come from, no matter the obstacles, your dreams are worth every sacrifice. If this boy could stop Simon Cowell in his tracks and move the hearts of millions, imagine what you could achieve when you refuse to give up. So take a step toward your own dreams, no matter how impossible they seem, and let your voice be heard. Remember this moment, this voice, this story, and carry it with you. Because one day, the world will pause to listen to you too. Keep dreaming. Keep fighting. And never let anyone tell you that your dreams are too big or your voice too small. The lights went down and the audience fell silent. Simon Cowell, with his signature stern expression, leaned forward, hand raised, and in just 10 seconds, he said what no one wanted to hear: "Next." A wave of tension swept through the theater. Everyone thought the boy's chance was over before it had begun. But then, a small figure, no older than 12, took a deep breath, closed his eyes, and let his voice carry the first note into the room. From that moment, the air changed. It wasn't just a performance, it was a story, a lifetime of struggle, hope, and unshakable determination wrapped into every note. The audience sat frozen, leaning forward as if afraid to miss a single second. Even Simon, the judge known for his instant judgments, paused, hands still raised, as though the music had temporarily silenced him. The boy's voice was pure, emotional, and powerful, filling the theater with a story that words alone could not express. Back in his small village in the Philippines, the boy had spent years chasing this dream. Every day began before sunrise, practicing in a tiny room, his voice echoing off the bare walls. Nights were long and sleepless. Hunger was constant, and opportunities were scarce. His family worked tirelessly, taking odd jobs just to keep him in school and give him a chance to sing. Singing wasn't just a talent for him, it was survival, a lifeline, and a promise to his family that one day the world would hear him. As he stepped into the bright spotlight of the AGT stage, a hush fell over the crowd. Every eye was on him. Simon's infamous 10-second warning lingered in the air like a shadow, and for a moment, it seemed impossible to continue. But the boy stood tall, closed his eyes, and let the music flow from his heart. The first note struck like lightning, so clear and strong that the room collectively held its breath. It was more than skill, it was emotion, raw and unfiltered, that instantly connected with every soul in the theater. Each note told a story of resilience. Each word carried the weight of sacrifice and dreams deferred. The audience could feel his journey, the early mornings, the long walks to practice, the tiny room where he sang alone. They felt his fear, his hope, and the burning desire that kept him going when most would have given up. And as his voice soared, Simon's face shifted from skepticism to shock, then awe. The entire room was captivated. The boy's story was one of courage. Growing up in a small village meant he faced more challenges than most could imagine. Poverty, doubt, and obstacles were constants in his life. But with every note, he demonstrated that perseverance can turn dreams into reality. His performance wasn't about proving his talent, it was about showing the world that determination, courage, and heart can overcome the harshest circumstances. As he reached the climax of his song, the theater erupted in cheers. Simon Cowell, the very man who had almost dismissed him after 10 seconds, was now on his feet, clapping and smiling, visibly moved. The audience followed, standing, shouting, some wiping tears from their eyes. The boy's performance had transcended mere singing, it had touched hearts, inspired hope, and reminded everyone that extraordinary talent often comes from the most unexpected places. When the final note faded, silence fell for a heartbeat before the applause thundered back. The boy turned toward his family backstage, tears in his eyes, whispering, "This is just the beginning." He understood that his journey was far from over, that challenges would continue to come, but now he had proof that dreams were worth fighting for. Every struggle, every sacrifice, every sleepless night had led to this moment. And the world had listened. The Filipino Elvis, as he would later be called, had done more than sing. He had inspired millions. From a small village to the world stage, he proved that talent alone isn't enough, it's courage, determination, and heart that truly make dreams come alive. Every note he sang was a message: never give up, even when the world doubts you. No voice is too small, no dream too impossible. As he walked off the stage, triumphant and humble, the lesson lingered in the hearts of everyone watching: where you start doesn't determine where you can go. If a young boy from the Philippines can stop Simon Cowell in his tracks and move the hearts of millions, imagine what you can achieve when you refuse to give up. Every dream, no matter how big or small, deserves a chance to be heard. Keep this story in your heart, let it remind you that your journey starts with a single step. Believe in yourself. Keep working, keep dreaming, and one day, the world will pause to listen to your voice too. Because if one boy could take a moment, transform it into magic, and inspire the world, there's nothing stopping you from doing the same. The theater was silent, the lights dimmed, and all eyes were fixed on the small boy standing in the center of the AGT stage. Simon Cowell leaned forward, his hand raised, eyes narrowing with the intensity of his usual judgment. 10 seconds passed, and with his sharp, unmistakable voice, he said what everyone feared: next. The crowd stiffened, but the boy did not move. He simply closed his eyes, took a deep, steadying breath, and began to sing. The first note shattered the silence. It wasn't just music, it was emotion incarnate. The sound carried the weight of his life, his struggles, and his dreams, echoing through every corner of the theater. The audience held its breath, leaning forward as if even the smallest movement might disrupt the magic. Simon's hand hovered midair, frozen, his eyes wide, as he tried to process the unexpected power coming from this tiny figure. This was not a boy who had been born with an easy path. In a small village in the Philippines, he had grown up facing challenges that would have crushed many. Early mornings were spent practicing in a cramped room, often before anyone else had woken up. Nights were sleepless, hunger was constant, yet he never gave up. His family worked tirelessly, taking odd jobs, just to support his dream. Every note he sang carried their sacrifices, their prayers, and the hope that someday, the world would listen. As he stepped fully into the spotlight, the bright stage lights illuminated his determined face. The audience, initially skeptical, watched in awe. Simon Cowell's infamous reputation for cutting acts short loomed like a shadow, yet the boy stood unwavering. The first verse flowed effortlessly from his lips, controlled, powerful, yet tender enough to reach into the hearts of everyone watching. Every phrase told a story, of resilience, of hope, of the refusal to give up. The boy's voice was extraordinary. It wove through high notes and soft whispers, expressing emotions too deep for words. The judges, audience, and cameras all focused on him as if time itself had slowed down. Simon's skeptical frown softened as he leaned forward, captivated. The crowd's initial hesitation turned into admiration, some moving to tears. It wasn't just singing, it was a story of life itself, delivered with perfect authenticity and passion. Flashbacks of his life played in everyone's minds: the long walks to school, the small meals his family managed, the countless hours of practice in a room too small for dreams that were so big. Every hardship, every lonely night, every tearful moment was poured into this performance. And the audience could feel it. His voice resonated not just through the theater, but into hearts across the world, a universal language of courage and perseverance. As the song built toward its climax, every note struck with precision and emotion. The audience was on their feet, some cheering, some wiping away tears, some simply in awe. Simon Cowell, the very man who had almost dismissed him after 10 seconds, was now standing, clapping slowly, a smile on his face. The applause echoed through the theater, yet the boy remained focused, letting each note tell a story far bigger than himself. When the final note faded, there was a moment of stillness, a silence so powerful that it seemed the entire world was holding its breath. Then the eruption came, the audience rose in a thunderous ovation, Simon clapping enthusiastically, the judges visibly moved. The boy's family backstage wept, hugging each other tightly, overwhelmed with pride and relief. For a moment, time stood still, honoring the triumph of determination, talent, and heart. The Filipino Elvis, as he would soon be known, had done more than sing. He had inspired a nation, and millions watching worldwide, to believe in their dreams. From a humble village to the AGT stage, he proved that it's not where you start, but how passionately you fight that determines your destiny. Each note was a testament to his journey, a signal that courage and perseverance can overcome any obstacle. As he walked off the stage, humble yet triumphant, the lesson was clear: dreams are never too big, and voices are never too small. If one boy could stop Simon Cowell in his tracks and inspire millions, imagine what each of us could achieve when we refuse to give up. Let this story be a reminder to all of us that no matter how hard life gets, determination, hope, and heart will carry you farther than talent alone. Keep dreaming. Keep fighting. And remember, the world is listening. One day, it will pause to hear your story too. The lights dimmed and the audience fell silent. Simon Cowell leaned forward, his hand raised, eyes narrowing, and in just 10 seconds, he uttered the words that could end dreams: next. A wave of tension swept through the theater. All eyes turned to the boy in the center, no more than 12 years old, standing under the spotlight. His small frame radiated determination. He closed his eyes, took a deep breath, and began to sing. The first note pierced the silence, clear and unwavering. It was not just a melody, it was a story, a lifetime of struggles woven into a single voice. The audience leaned forward, captivated by a presence that seemed bigger than his age. Simon's hand hovered midair, frozen in disbelief, as the room held its collective breath. The boy's voice carried both strength and vulnerability, as if he was pouring every hardship he had ever endured into this moment. From a small village in the Philippines, his journey had been anything but easy. Every morning before sunrise, he practiced in a tiny, dimly lit room, his voice echoing off the bare walls. Nights were filled with hunger and exhaustion, but never with surrender. His family worked tirelessly, taking odd jobs and enduring sleepless nights, all to support his dream. Singing wasn't a hobby, it was survival, a promise to his family that their sacrifices would be worth it one day. As he stepped fully into the spotlight, the theater's energy shifted. The bright lights revealed his determined face, and the audience could see the fire in his eyes. Simon Cowell's initial skepticism lingered in the air, yet the boy didn't waver. The first verse flowed effortlessly, each note carrying a depth that was impossible to ignore. Every word told a story of perseverance, of hope, and of refusing to let circumstances define the future. The audience felt the weight of his journey in every phrase. Each note communicated resilience, each melody echoed the long hours of practice, the sleepless nights, the dreams deferred yet never forgotten. Even the judges were moved, unable to mask their astonishment. Simon Cowell's frown softened into surprise, then admiration, as he leaned forward to absorb every note. The boy's voice wasn't just heard, it was felt. Flashbacks of his life could be imagined in the mind of the audience: barefoot walks under the sun, small meals barely enough to sustain him, the cramped room where he practiced while the world slept. Every hardship, every tear, every quiet moment of determination had led to this stage. And now, it was being poured back into the world as pure, unfiltered emotion. As the song built toward its climax, the theater erupted in energy. The audience rose to their feet, clapping and cheering, some moved to tears. Simon Cowell, the man who had nearly dismissed him after 10 seconds, was now standing, clapping slowly, clearly moved. The room was alive with awe and appreciation, and yet the boy remained focused, letting each note carry his story with dignity and humility. When the final note faded, the audience held its breath for just a moment before the eruption of cheers returned. The boy turned toward his family backstage, tears glistening in his eyes, whispering, "This is just the beginning." He understood that his journey was far from over, that life would continue to challenge him, yet he now held proof that dreams are worth fighting for, no matter how impossible they seem. The Filipino Elvis, as he would later be called, had done more than sing. He had inspired an entire nation and millions across the world to believe in their dreams. From a small village to a global stage, he proved that talent alone isn't enough. Determination, courage, and heart are what turn dreams into reality. Every note he sang carried a universal message: never give up, even when the world doubts you. As he walked off the stage, humble yet triumphant, the message lingered: it doesn't matter where you start, it matters how passionately you fight. If one boy could stop Simon Cowell and touch the hearts of millions, imagine what you could do if you refused to give up. His story was a testament to hope, resilience, and the undeniable power of dreams. The crowd slowly began to disperse, but the echoes of his voice remained. They lingered in the hearts of the audience, in the eyes of his family, and in the soul of anyone who had witnessed the performance. He had shown that when determination meets talent, the results are transformative. And even as the stage lights dimmed, his voice seemed to echo across the world, a reminder that one single act of courage can inspire countless others. Dreams are not defined by circumstances, they are defined by the courage to pursue them relentlessly. This boy, this Filipino Elvis, had become a symbol of hope, proof that no obstacle is too great, no dream too small, and no voice too quiet to be heard. He had not just sung a song. He had painted a story of resilience, of sacrifice, of unwavering belief in oneself. He had reminded the world that greatness can come from the most unexpected places, and that those willing to work tirelessly, to endure hardship, and to believe in their dreams can move the hearts of millions. And so, as the curtain fell and the applause faded, the lesson remained: keep dreaming, keep fighting, and one day, your voice too will be heard. The Filipino Elvis had shown the world that nothing is impossible when you refuse to give up. The theater fell silent as the lights dimmed. Simon Cowell, known for his sharp critiques, leaned forward, his hand raised. 10 seconds passed, and with a voice that could end dreams, he said, "Next." Gasps filled the room, and a sense of disbelief spread through the audience. Everyone expected the performance to end before it began. But then, a small boy, no older than 12, stood firm under the spotlight. He closed his eyes, inhaled deeply, and sang the very first note. That note changed everything. It was not just music, it was a story of struggle, of hope, and of dreams that refused to die. The audience was transfixed, leaning forward as though their very breath depended on it. Even Simon's hand froze mid-air. He was stunned by the clarity, power, and emotion radiating from the boy. The boy's voice carried strength and vulnerability at the same time, pouring years of sacrifice into each note. Back in his small village in the Philippines, the boy's journey had been anything but easy. Every morning before sunrise, he practiced in a tiny room, his voice echoing against the bare walls. Nights were sleepless, filled with hunger and worry. His family worked tirelessly, taking odd jobs and enduring hardships just to give him a chance. Singing wasn't a hobby, it was survival, a promise that one day the world would hear his voice. Stepping into the AGT spotlight, he felt the weight of expectations, but he did not falter. The theater seemed to hold its breath as he sang. Simon's infamous 10-second judgment loomed over him like a shadow, but the boy's confidence grew with each note. The first verse flowed effortlessly, each syllable dripping with emotion. Every word told a story, of perseverance, of courage, and of refusing to let circumstances define the future. The audience could feel the weight of his life in every note. Each phrase echoed long hours of practice, sleepless nights, and the sacrifices of his family. Even the judges could not hide their astonishment. Simon's frown softened as he leaned forward, captivated by the extraordinary talent and heart in front of him. The boy's performance was more than singing, it was storytelling with the soul. Flashbacks seemed to play in everyone's minds: barefoot walks under the hot sun, small meals barely enough to sustain him, the cramped room where he sang alone while the world slept. Every hardship, every quiet moment of determination, had led to this stage. And now, it poured back into the world as pure emotion. As the song built to its climax, the audience rose to their feet. Cheers and tears filled the room. Simon, the man who had almost dismissed him after 10 seconds, now stood, clapping slowly, clearly moved. The boy's performance transcended singing, it was magic, inspiration, and pure humanity captured in a voice. When the final note faded, the theater held its breath for a moment, honoring the achievement. Then the eruption came: applause, cheering, tears. The boy turned to his family backstage, eyes glistening with emotion, whispering, "This is just the beginning." He knew that life's journey would continue to challenge him, but now he had undeniable proof: dreams are worth fighting for, no matter the obstacles. The Filipino Elvis, as he would later be called, had done more than impress an audience, he had inspired millions to believe in their own dreams. From a humble village to a global stage, he proved that talent alone is not enough, it is determination, heart, and courage that make dreams come alive. Every note carried the universal message: never give up, no matter how many times the world says no. As he walked off the stage, the lesson lingered: it does not matter where you start, only how passionately you fight. If one boy from a small village could stop Simon Cowell and move millions, imagine what anyone could do when they refuse to quit. His story became a symbol of hope, resilience, and the power of relentless effort. The audience slowly dispersed, but the echoes of his voice remained, lingering in hearts everywhere. He had proven that courage paired with talent can transform lives, and that greatness can come from the most unexpected places. His performance was a living reminder that perseverance overcomes hardship, and that dreams, no matter how big, are worth chasing. Even as the stage lights dimmed, his voice seemed to linger in the minds of everyone watching, a quiet but persistent call to keep dreaming. One day, the world will pause to hear you, just as it paused to hear him. This boy did not Jew. The theater was silent, every eye locked on the small figure standing under the bright AGT spotlight. Simon Cowell leaned forward, hand raised, his expression as sharp as ever. 10 seconds passed, and he said the dreaded word: next. A collective gasp echoed through the room. Everyone expected the boy's performance to end before it began. But he didn't flinch. He closed his eyes, inhaled deeply, and began to sing. The first note cut through the silence like lightning. It wasn't just singing, it was emotion, raw and pure, telling a story of hope, struggle, and unbroken dreams. The audience leaned forward instinctively, as if holding their breath would help him carry the melody. Simon's hand hovered mid-air, frozen, unable to tear his eyes away. The boy's voice was powerful yet tender, fearless yet vulnerable. Every note told a story of years spent chasing a dream. In his small Philippine village, the boy's journey had begun long before this stage. Every morning before the sun rose, he practiced in a tiny, dimly lit room, alone with his dreams. Nights were sleepless, often filled with hunger and uncertainty. His family worked tirelessly, taking whatever jobs they could find, sacrificing their own comfort so he could pursue a dream. Singing was never a hobby, it was survival, a promise to his family that one day, the world would hear him. He stepped fully into the spotlight, and the room seemed to hold its breath. Simon's 10-second thread lingered like a shadow, but the boy remained poised. The first verse flowed effortlessly, each word carrying the weight of his life's journey. Every phrase spoke of perseverance, of courage, of refusing to let circumstances dictate destiny. The audience didn't just hear him, they felt him. Each note resonated with a truth that no rehearsed performance could replicate. The audience felt the struggle, the long walks, the small meals, the tears in the night when no one was watching. Simon's frown softened as he leaned closer, captivated. The boy wasn't just singing a song, he was sharing a lifetime of sacrifice, hope, and determination. The music swelled, and with every crescendo, the boy's story became clearer. The audience, once skeptical, now watched in awe. Some wiped away tears, some sat frozen, overwhelmed by the emotion. Simon, usually quick to judge, now stood, clapping slowly, moved by what he had witnessed. The boy's talent had transcended skill, it had become storytelling with the heart. The boy's journey was far from easy. In his village, life was a series of challenges that would have broken many. Yet he continued to wake before dawn, practice tirelessly, and dream boldly. His family's sacrifices were immense, but they had never doubted him. Every hardship, every lonely night, every tear was poured into his performance tonight. And it shone brilliantly on the AGT stage. As the song reached its peak, the audience rose to their feet. Cheers filled the theater, mingled with tears and cries of admiration. Simon Cowell, the man who had stopped him after 10 seconds, now stood in complete awe. The applause reverberated, and the boy's voice soared above it, commanding attention without effort. He wasn't performing, he was inspiring, touching hearts, and proving that perseverance is powerful. The final note lingered in the air like a blessing. Silence followed, heavy and profound, as the room absorbed what had just occurred. Then the eruption came, applause, cheers, and shouts of joy. The boy turned to his family backstage, tears in his eyes, whispering, "This is just the beginning." He knew the road ahead would still have obstacles, but this moment proved that dreams are possible. From a small village to the world stage, the Filipino Elvis had done more than sing. He had inspired millions. He showed that talent alone isn't enough, it's determination, courage, and heart that transform dreams into reality. Every note he sang carried a universal message: never give up, even when the world doubts you. As he walked off the stage, humble yet triumphant, the lesson was clear: it doesn't matter where you start, it's about how passionately you pursue your dreams. If one boy could stop Simon Cowell and move millions, imagine what anyone could achieve with relentless effort. His story became a beacon of hope, proof that resilience can overcome any obstacle. The theater slowly emptied, but the echoes of his voice remained. Hearts had been touched, spirits inspired, and minds reminded of the power of perseverance. This performance would be remembered not just for the singing, but for the soul and courage behind it. Even as the lights dimmed, his voice lingered like a whisper to the world: keep dreaming, keep fighting, and one day, your story will be heard. He had not just sung, he had painted a tale of struggle, hope, and triumph with his voice. He reminded everyone watching that talent is a gift, but determination is unstoppable. Every note carried emotion, each phrase resonated with truth, and every heartbeat in the audience connected to his journey. Walking off stage, he proved that courage, heart, and hard work matter more than fame or resources. From humble beginnings, he had touched the world with nothing but a dream and a voice. The Filipino Elvis had become a symbol of hope. He proved that dreams are never too big, voices are never too small, and perseverance can turn impossibilities into realities. And even after the applause faded, the story remained, echoing in hearts across the globe: keep believing. Keep dreaming. One day, the world will listen to you too. The lights dimmed and the audience fell silent. Simon Cowell leaned forward, his hand raised, his eyes narrowing. 10 seconds had passed, and with a voice that could end dreams, he said, "Next." Gasps filled the room, and the weight of expectation pressed down on the small boy standing in the spotlight. But he did not flinch. He closed his eyes, took a deep breath, and let his voice flow. The first note cut through the theater, pure and clear. It wasn't just a sound, it was a story. Every note carried years of sacrifice, struggle, and dreams that refused to die. The audience leaned forward instinctively, mesmerized by the tiny figure commanding the stage. Simon's hand froze midair, even he could not believe the emotion that poured from such a small frame. From a small village in the Philippines, the boy's journey had been far from easy. Every morning before sunrise, he practiced in a cramped room. Nights were sleepless and often filled with hunger. His family worked tirelessly, taking any job they could find, sacrificing their own comfort to support his dream. Singing wasn't a hobby, it was survival. Every note was a promise to his family that one day the world would hear him. As he stepped fully into the spotlight, the energy in the room shifted. Simon's 10-second warning lingered like a shadow, yet the boy remained calm. His first verse flowed effortlessly, each word dripping with emotion. Every syllable told a story, of perseverance, of courage, and of refusing to let circumstances dictate the future. The audience felt every struggle, every hardship, every sacrifice in that small room in the Philippines. Each note resonated deeply. The audience could feel the long walks he had taken under the hot sun, the small meals he had endured, the endless nights of practice. Simon's frown softened, his skepticism replaced with awe. The boy was not just performing a song, he was living his story in front of the world. The music built slowly, every note stronger than the last. The theater seemed to hold its breath. Each phrase carried hope, each chord carried resilience. The boy's voice was fearless yet tender, strong yet vulnerable. Everyone could sense the heart behind the talent. This was more than a performance, it was a testament to human spirit. Flashbacks seemed to fill the minds of the audience, the village streets, the morning walks, the cramped room with dim light, the family who had sacrificed so much. All of it poured into his voice, giving a depth that no stage lighting or applause could capture. The boy's eyes remained closed, his hands gripping the microphone, his heart fully in the moment. With every note, he painted a picture of determination, of refusing to give up despite life's harshest challenges. The audience was spellbound. Every heart in that theater beat in sync with his courage. Simon, the judge known for his sharp critiques, could not hide his astonishment. His hands lowered, his stern expression softened, and he leaned forward, completely captivated. He had stopped many acts in seconds before, but now, he was frozen, watching something extraordinary. The audience's initial skepticism turned into admiration. Some wiped tears, others whispered to neighbors in disbelief. The boy's voice had transcended skill, it was storytelling with pure emotion. Each word carried truth, each note carried hope. As the song progressed, the boy reached the crescendo, and the energy in the theater exploded. Simon was on his feet, clapping slowly, clearly moved. The audience followed, standing, cheering, and shouting, some with tears running down their faces. This was not just talent, it was magic. When the final note faded, silence filled the room. Every heart seemed to pause, reflecting on the journey they had just witnessed. Then the eruption came, cheers, applause, and cries of joy. The boy turned to his family backstage, tears glistening in his eyes, whispering, "This is just the beginning." His journey from a small village to a global stage was a story of hope, sacrifice, and relentless determination. He had proven that talent alone is not enough. Heart, courage, and persistence matter more. Every note he sang carried this universal truth: never give up, even when the world doubts you. The Filipino Elvis, as he would later be called, had not just impressed the audience, he had inspired millions. His story was proof that dreams can,